Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Lit Up Lightworker podcast, bringing you fun and soulful interviews with spiritual teachers with the aim of tuning you in and lighting you up. You can access all episodes of the podcast on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, and TuneIn. And be sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel for more videos and interviews all about finding and following your life purpose. My name is George Lizos. I'm a spiritual teacher, intuitive, the co-creator of Elemental Healing, the author of Be the Guru, and the #1 best-selling Lightworkers Gotta Work. And today I have with me Karan Rauch Carter. Karan has spent the past 30 years of her life dedicated to helping others create optimal living and work spaces for her clients. She has written the national best-selling book, Move Your Stuff, Change Your Life, as well as the follow-up book, Make a Shift, Change Your Life. She's a landscape architect, Feng Shui trainer and consultant, and international speaker. Her job is to align her clients with living and workplaces that support their ultimate dream future, whether it be health, wealth, love, or happiness in any life circumstance. Karan, welcome to the Lit Up Lightworker podcast.
Thank you. I love that. A light worker's got to work.
Exactly. That is a whole premise of.
Or is it a light lazier? I don't know. Light worker. That makes sense. I never thought of the word work in there.
The tagline is the world won't change sitting in meditation pillows all day long. So I'm taking a funny approach to it. Now, Karan, I am so excited to have you on the show because Feng Shui has been the first spiritual modality I ever worked with, and that got me on my spiritual path. So while I was growing up and I was a depressed teenager and I wanted to take my own life, and I decided, okay, I'm gonna learn to love and accept myself. I looked around me in the spiritual community and tried to find something to hold on to. And that's when the first Feng Shui book popped up. And I'm like, okay, I can move stuff around, I can create change in my house, and this way, I'm going to create a different life for myself. So I use Feng Shui to, first of all, Feng Shui my own room because I was 15 years old. I couldn't go into the entire house, although I did in later years, and just fill it up with little fountains and mirrors and Baguama, which I later did. But I changed stuff in my own room and I started seeing positive changes in my life. My outlook started changing. People started seeing me in a different way. I started attracting friends. I started attracting opportunities. And then I'm like, oh my God, this thing works. I didn't know though why, which brings me to my first question. What is Feng Shui and how does it work?
Well, it's interesting because, my friend who's in Madrid, Spain, she just posted something. She's a shadow worker. And she's like, what do you think this coronavirus is supposed to be teaching us these days or whatever. And I said that we're all one and lines in the sand mean nothing, right? Because it spreads, right? So I think that's a pretty interesting thing. So getting back to that conversation of we are all one. This is one thing called energy. You might look like you're over there and I'm over here, but we are all interconnected and not even really connected because we are all one. So working in the quantum field and, if everybody was a quantum physicist or whatever, they would understand what Feng Shui is about. But a lot of people don't have the time to study that. And so it's literally about, creating or modifying or mindfully arranging your environment so that it consistently supports you rather than willy-nilly whenever it feels like it, or maybe not, or roll of the dice. And so you are intending, and we all know that intention is, a invisible power, right? We'll call it. And in the Feng Shui world, it's considered 60 to 70% of the cure. A cure meaning a change to your environment. So you can move your physical stuff, and we all know those are the slower vibrating molecules from an energy point of view, but the intention, 60 to 70% of the power of the cure comes from the intention behind it. So is your home already Feng Shuied? Yes, in a way, whether you knew it or not mindfully. Can you reinforce it easily, with your intention and moving your stuff? Absolutely. So yeah, it's about creating spaces that work for you. You don't put Well, if you're trying to get a flower to bloom, you don't sit there and hit the seed and smack the leaves and come on, you add to the dirt, the water, the sunlight. You're creating the optimal environment for the flower to bloom. So it's not about the flower, so to speak, as much as the environment. So that consider feng shui like really creating the environment so that you can bloom, just similar to how we grow plants in the agrarian society. So
Oh, how beautiful. And I do professional space clearing, which is part of Feng Shui. And what I always tell people that I go to their houses to do the space clearing ceremony is that the tools I use won't do the work. It is the intention behind those tools and your intention that creates this work, which is exactly what you've just said. And how beautiful to know that we have the power to create change in our life by creating change in our space. Now, when I tell people this about Feng Shui, they get it. Okay, it's the intention of creating a harmonious space. What they usually don't get is the Baguama. And for those people who don't know what the Baguama is, it's basically depending on which Feng Shui school you're studying, it's either is it
I'm just going to
an
say
octagon or is it a square?
I'm just going to say it's a pattern.
Ah,
Just like the colors of the rainbow, when light goes through a prism,
yes.
the colors of the rainbow are in a certain pattern. There is a pattern of organization in the universe. You can subscribe to it and believe it or not, I guess the fake news or whatever out there, but there are patterns to things. So I consider myself a pattern seer. Feng Shui is an art. And can you see the pattern of what is portending out to be a good future or a bad future for your client? And I've been doing this so long that I've seen so many patterns. Well, it's kind of like a doctor. You go to the doctor and you're like, oh my God, I got this rash on my arm. And they're like, oh, that's measles. And you're like, oh my God, of all the millions of things it could possibly be, how did you know it was measles? And like, I've seen it a million times. So I've seen it a million times. And I have now, to the point of where people call me and say they have this problem, and I can say, oh, just get the knife out of your nightstand drawer, and they're like, how did you know I had that? And I'm like, I've seen the pattern. You have that issue, da, 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 da. I know the environment that is really ripe to grow that flower blooming in that particular way. So, you don't put your baby down by the edge of the pool to take a nap. Everybody knows that's probably a bad idea, a bad outcome, reckless maybe. But where does obvious end and subtle begin? So Feng Shui deals with the things in your environment that you didn't even know were taking you down or nipping at your health, from a gross standpoint to a oh so subtle standpoint. And so, yeah, obviously it's the obvious things, don't sleep with a gun next to your head, whatever. But then there's obvious, then there's the, where does obvious end and subtle begin? So think of the Feng Shui consultant coming in and hitting all those things that you never even realized were in that pattern, thwarting you towards demise or wilting, dying, depleting, as opposed to growing, blooming, thriving.
So to connect this to the Baguama, it's basically an area, a shape, a pattern that you superimpose on a space. And the areas divided, the 9 areas that we divide the house in, is just our own intention that brings them to life. How does it work exactly?
Well, like I said, getting back to the patterns, there are patterns that support health, love, relationship, money, whatever. And understanding that somebody has figured out that this particular pattern 5,000 years ago, somebody's like, oh, you do this over here. And so certain areas of the house you can get by adding your intention, changing something, adding energy there with that intention, you can get a bump up in that realm. So just knowing that there's a Bagua map, and I would even say for people that are just starting out, my book, Move Your Stuff, Change Your Life, I consider it the welcome wagon to Feng Shui. Like people are like, I've read books before and they tore my head and there's too much math and, there are many styles of Feng Shui. And the one style that I chose to write about is the one that deals with the built environment the most, because most people can't pick up their house and turn it 3 degrees and set it back down because of some, alignment with the Earth's gravitational pull. the style that I practice is more, I could Feng Shui Jupiter, not dead, not real, not needing Earth, north, south, east, and west to deal with it, so it's a universal, more quantum physics style, and it lends itself to the built environment better. But I'm going to say, so move your stuff, change your life. Welcome wagon to Feng Shui. Don't freak out. You can laugh while you learn. It's not like it's going to bog you down. As a matter of fact, people are like, thank you. You're the first person that opened my eyes to Feng Shui, because I just could not. My goal when I wrote the book was to write a book that somebody would finish because I had a hard time finishing other Feng Shui books because I was like, what? But if we take a step back and say, I don't know anything about Feng Shui, but by the end of this podcast, I want to know something I can do to my environment. Boom, let's get in that. And I would set the bagua aside, because I know a lot of people, it's just, let's make it simpler. Why even introduce the bagua when there's so many things we can do to our environment like that, without even learning a rule of engagement with the topic of Feng Shui written in its format, blah, blah. So I would say my first tip would be listen to your languaging. Words are tips to what's going on in your life. We personify our home and we say, like, my home needs a facelift. What? That's weird that you're calling it a facelift and it's a house, and what face, that's weird. And so we personify our home and we describe our lives in very architectural terms. We say, it's like I'm running into a wall with everything I do, or breaking the glass ceiling. We use architectural terms so we have our spaces and our languaging and the way we perceive our environments are kind of smashed together. And if we can listen a little bit and listen to how we're complaining, like I can't get ahead, I'm so stuck, I'm so drained all the time. I listen to people's words. A 15-minute interview with somebody, I know where to go in their house. I know what their problem is. Sometimes I don't even have to be there. I can talk to them on the phone and say, go do this and do that. I know you've got this. And they're like, no, I don't. I'm like, go over there and look. I had one lady that she said, my husband and I and my 3 daughters live here. The middle daughter has glasses. She's got all kinds of eye problems. She goes, my husband and I don't have eye problems. The other 2 girls don't have eye problems, but the middle daughter has eye problems. And I said, go to the middle back of your house, look for a window pane that's broken. And she goes, oh, I know there's a window pane broken there. And I'm like, so it's, it sounds really random, but I know all the bagua, I know all the 5 elements, I know all the rules. And so I can smash and compute all that stuff together and go, the middle back of the house, I know governs the middle daughter. I know windows are the eyes of the house, and a weakness like that, it would be pretty logical to guess that there's something wrong with the window in the center back of the house. Sounds like completely, I fetched it out of thin air, but when you know all the little tidbits. So I'd say listen to your language. And if you're so drained all the time, I might be looking at your plumbing. Drain, you said the word drain. It's like I'm running into a wall. Oh, you are running into a wall. There's somewhere where there's a wall very close to when you're walking in a door, maybe it's your bedroom and you have to go right or left because the side of the closet's straight ahead. Or maybe your desk is facing a wall, your desk is shoved up against a wall instead of looking at, I usually say the more space in front of your face, the more opportunity you'll have. So if there's a wall right in your face, you're running into it. Get the breath. Like I take a big bite of chocolate cake out there. Just, if I have to eat like this, or if there's a tree right in front of my front door, the doors are the mouths of the house, just like the windows are the eyes. Remember, we're personifying the house. So is your main mouth where all the air, water, food comes in to sustain your body? That's your architecturally intended front door. If I were to do something, I'd make sure that thing is in tip-top shape, because that's what's sustaining you. Your architecturally intended front door is where it's all coming in or not.
It's amazing how many levels there are to Feng Shui. You can start really simply and still get amazing results, or you can go really specific and again, still get amazing results. So would you say that our house is a reflection of ourselves, or we are a reflection of our house?
It's a chicken and an egg thing, and it works both ways. I've worked with people's mindset, where I'm like, if I can't get you to believe that your surgery tomorrow can have a good outcome, I wouldn't recommend having the surgery, because you're going to play that out. And then sometimes it's the environment, easy peasy, and we can make the shift in their life without having to do much mindset or whatever to them. Like, I know, I'm like, oh, let's just do this. It'll show up. And I always say, I will be in charge of the meaning of what shows up. Because if you say you want a new job, a new man, a new car, and we feng shui you, don't, I usually say, let's just do this in, how fast do you want it?
Yeah.
If you pull an all-nighter and do everything that I tell you, I learned this lesson because I'm like, I'm going to give you some of the things and then we'll slowly eke it in. I had one girlfriend say that exact same thing: new man, new car, and new job. And she pulled an all-nighter. She did everything on her list. And she crashed her car. She broke up with her boyfriend broke up with her, and she got not only fired from her job, they sued her for like non-compete or compete clause or whatever.
Oh my
something
goodness.
like that. She was like, I hate feng shui. And I'm like, it's working fast, and she's like, she wanted to smack me. And I'm like, so I do it in a way that is, you don't have to go through that crisis to
gradual.
Yeah. We there's a pace, you don't have to do it that way. You can. And it got her to where she wanted swiftly, but it was, she's like, I hate feng shui, I hate feng shui. And then 6 weeks later, she's like, I love feng shui. My life is so awesome. So, I work with, what are you willing to change in your life? I don't make up like you need more prosperity or you need more love. It's really, what do you want and what are you willing to change? Because some people just, they're like, I know my relationship is crap, but I'm just not willing to go there right now. Why would I do something to their house? And that's the difference between reading a book and doing stuff. Everybody's just doing stuff. They're like, I don't know, I'll paint my front door red or whatever. Or is it creating a custom solution for you? What are you willing to do? Let's do this in this order, because it will unfold in just a calm, rational
and it's more
way.
personalized rather than just depending on all the little rules they give you about feng shui.
Yeah.
Oh, don't have this in front of that, don't do this in front of that. Whereas just look into your life, into your house, and see what's needed. What would you say, though, are the biggest feng shui blocks that people have, meaning mistakes that they make in their houses? Something that you keep seeing over and over again, and that by overcoming it, we'll see a big change in our lives.
I mean, clutter is just getting serious, especially in the United States. I don't know, wherever it has a lot of stuff. And, the more storage units that I've seen grow, there's like an exponential thing between like storage units and clutter and weird people getting stuck and stuff. Just like I've noticed the pattern of the lack of loyalty for companies. We don't have that work for somebody for 30 years and get the gold watch thing anymore. Everybody's very disposable, no loyalty. You just move on to the next business. And when our desk became a, part-time table at Starbucks, it became very temporary. It became very on the move. It's not like, boom, I'm here to stay. This is my desk. So the spatial relationship of laptops on the move versus I'm going to work and I'm at my desk and I'm here to do. There's, according to the non-physical, we have had that show up in people's lives where they seem like they're not connected like they used to be to their jobs. So I look at things, I look at global patterns, I look at local patterns, and I just see like, what's going on? What, relative to the ocean right out my side door over here, the regional influence of that much water or that many trees or that many mountains or those many buildings, or, the Twin Towers were in feng shui books long before 9/11 as very vulnerable to the wind buildings in New York City. The United Nations building and the Twin Towers, both unfavorable positions. And the United Nations has never had the clout or the power that they should have. Their siting along the Hudson River in New York City has always been known as, from feng shui consultants, as a very poor position with that water behind them. They don't know what's happening behind them. And just like when you put your bed up against a window at the headboard, or if you put your headboard of your bed up against the same wall that the door coming into the room is on, where you have to turn around to see who's coming in, that puts you in a weakened, vulnerable position. You might show up with anxiety. Maybe you have a picture of water overhead. I have a lot of boys' bedrooms that have surf themed bedroom. I mean, I'm in Southern California right now. I live in Florida, Southern California. I live all over the world. And when I see those surf themed boys' bedrooms, they always have that overwhelmed, generalized anxiety, blah, blah, blah. And when you're living with water higher than, than you can breathe, you feel a little tense, don't put underwater scenes higher than your nose, because you're like, that's not the natural order of things. It should be clouds, stars, clouds, birds, trees, dirt, water. Water shouldn't be up here. Water shouldn't be above the birds, whatever. So I look at the patterns, even in the symbols of the art, and can get great changes from getting water up from above the above the bed or wherever you're spending a lot of time.
It's amazing. Yes.
Consider what's closest to you has the most impact on you. What's closest to you. So look at your immediate environment. That's why Feng Shui consultants look about your bedroom the most, because that's 8 hours, hopefully 1/3 of your life. If I see the router next to your bed, pulsing electromagnetic fields and radiation, cell tower, RF, 8 hours of your day with a router poking through your body and your cells, not cool. The beds that plug in now,
anxiety.
You're now sitting in electrical fields because your bed plugs in and goes up and down, and whatever beds do these days. And they've got those, chairs looking at the television that are all hooked together, the media center that you can put your feet up. And I'm like, we're getting so lazy, but when you get your meters out, which I do, because I teach biology as well as Feng Shui, the contemporary part of Feng Shui is, you can put your headboard up against a nice solid wall and it looks perfect, but if on the other side of it is the circuit panel, then we've got an unhealthy situation from a contemporary Feng Shui point of view, not just like the perfect placement. So we have to look at that as well. And bed, check. Officing, or wherever you spend the majority of your time during the day, check. If I can get those two things, like, sweet, then where you're running around to the movies and you're in your car and stuff, it's not going to affect you that much, because where you spend the majority of your time is safe and empowered and healthy for you and generating, income, et cetera, then you're doing pretty good.
It's amazing how space has power over us. Like you mentioned the Twin Towers, and I've recently been in Athens in Greece, and I've noticed the Parthenon standing there for thousands of years. And I'm like, oh my God, it must have been such a prosperous Feng Shui position. And actually I was reading a book about the Hellenic Feng Shui. So this was a lady who studied the ancient Greek philosophers, and she found that they practiced Feng Shui, they just didn't call it Feng Shui, they called it the art of Evzin, which is about their life, like good living. And she talked about how the ancient Greeks placed the Parthenon in a position where it would last. It was auspicious when regards to like the energy, the ley lines, the Feng Shui. It's amazing just how powerful nature and space is around us, as well as how, as you said, our intention can affect space. What would you say is the number one or two things that we can bring into our houses to uplift the energy or to create, let's say, instant shift? Is there something, or does it has to be like a holistic change in the entire house?
Yeah, I would just think if you, like I said, get back to your words, and if you're just like, opportunity isn't coming my way, or I keep getting missed by opportunity, then I would be like, let's fluff up that front door and get your front door. You're like, my front door is the same as everybody's on the wall because I'm in an apartment building, and what can I do energetically to make the energy come my way? We might do a little secret cure of just, almost like the Pied Piper, bringing the energy from the street into the building, up the stairs, along the hallway, and stopping and opening up and crossing into your threshold You know, how can we do that intentionally? And I would say, imagine yourself as there are secret cures that we use, whatever. I don't want to go into these long things, but just imagine, stand up at the street and just go, okay, energy, follow me. This is the way to my house, because I need more opportunities to show up so I can have the pick of the, you know, my choices in the future, and make that walk, get in a meditative state, make that walk, and just pretend you're like dropping your little breadcrumbs, like, this is the way to my place. You know, you can do whatever ritual. I had a girl, she dropped little drops of red, because red can activate. She dropped like little red drops of fingernail polish. I don't, you know, wasn't my cure. She made that up. But I've seen people make up something that feels authentic to them. She was in the beauty industry. So I had one client who needed to sell her business, and she said, I need an international client. She actually went to the airport in Portugal, I guess it was Lisbon, and she drove from the airport all the way to her front door of her business. And she was like, the whole time she's showing the energy, this is the way you come, this is the way you come to my house. And she said she didn't think she would ever sell that place, and so she sold her business easily with an international client. So get your intention in order. What do you want? What are you looking for? See if you can find the perfect symbol that would say that to the universe. One client I had, she hung up a picture of a Hawaiian scene because she wanted the water in it for her career area of her bagua, right when she walked in the front door. She hung it up there because of the water. That's all she knew, water. And 3 years later, she came in from her, she's a, you know, Caucasian, blonde, whatever. And she came home from her hula lesson. Yeah. And when she opened the door one day, she looked, and there is a hula girl in that picture that she never noticed because she hung it up there for the water. And she's like, interesting that I turned into a hula girl, and there's a hula girl in my career, life path, how I spend my time on earth, you know, area of my bagua, that you just don't know how powerful the subconscious is to picking up symbols in your life. So if you're looking in your house and there's things you don't love, things you inherited. I just had a client say, I inherited dog ashes from my ancestry. Dog ashes. Are they good or are they bad? And I'm like, you know, how is dead ashes supporting your life? It's not for me to say, but can you give me anything that would help me make a justification for having the dead, still, you know, absolute, in the circle of life, it's that bottom, absolute stillness, not growing, blooming, thriving, you know, sunshine, not harvesting, it's the dead of winter energy. So I don't really say anything's right or wrong until I hear from you. What does it mean to you? How is it affecting you up or down? And then we can make the Goldilocks assessment. Too much of this, too little of that. We got to get you just right. And that's how I sort of, you know, so maybe think of what you want in life, and, you know, kind of like that vision board thing that's so many people do. It's powerful because the intention, yes, the symbols, the words, you know, make a vision board. I'll just throw that out there as far as like, it would get people on a closer to right track with what they're, you know, intending for their future.
Oh my goodness, Karen, you've given us so much to think about. Like, I'm full of like ideas right now. I'm gonna go into my room and make changes into my house, walk from the exit, from the entrance to my apartment door.
Very mindfully.
And visualize, use intention. How beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing all this with us. Now, tell us a little bit about your certification program that you teach, as well as your book.
Yeah, I don't know when this is airing or whatever, but March 16th is my next course where I teach people to do what I do and how I do it. All the healthy home stuff, as well as the traditional Feng Shui stuff, mindset stuff, everything. And there's another course starting in September if you can't make the March one. And so if you're interested in doing what I do, I travel the world doing it, and I love it. I have a lot of fun. And if it speaks to you and you're like, I don't know what this thing is, but I feel like there's a vibration in me that's like, oh, you know, I'm being called, have at it. Feel free to talk to me about it if you need to. Of course, read my books if you need them. I do consultations all over the place. But there's, if you go to moveitwithkaren.com, you can type in your email address and I'll send you this little webinar, which is about it's called Position Yourself for Success. And it's a little bit about how we were talking about what's closest to you has the most impact on you. How do you get your bed, your office chair, desk, in where you cook or whatever, in the most favorable positions overall. And it goes through, it's interesting when you just go through this webinar and you see the king, the pope, the priest, the judge, the president, what? Like everybody's got this giant, throne is taller. Even when they stand up, the back of the chair is taller than them. Like, who needs that much chair back? And then we get the president of the United States with a window behind them. Never a good position. It's kind of like what we were talking about, the United Nations.
Yeah.
You're never going to get full. If your complaint is nobody's got my back, look behind you. If you got a window, a door, that's, there you have it. It's the connection. So I listen to your complaints. We go find it in your house. And that's what I'm just saying for you. So then go to moveitwithkaren.com, watch that webinar, and at least you'll get that one tip about, like, just looking at the slide, you're like, oh my God, it's so obvious now that I see 20 slides of good and bad right in a row. Clearly that's right and that's weak, So go look at that webinar, and then you can, get in my newsletter list and start following and seeing where I travel to. And, I'm here to help. I'm of service as much as I can. And I've made myself full-time traveling. I'm home free. This is my test. Like, I have to know how much clutter needs to go to see, because space equals opportunity. So how much space creates the most opportunity? It's my job to know. I had to get rid of it all.
Wow.
And to see what does getting rid of it all do as far as opportunities. It's amazing. I was expecting this, and just like in Feng Shui, when you intend that, you usually get that plus. So there's always this extra bonus. Yeah. So feel free to declutter without knowing what's going to happen, because you'll usually get a little bonus that you're not expecting, as did I. So I'm currently living this home-free life as my experiment, because I got to walk my talk. And I'm like, how far do I need to push people? I need to know the end of the thing, to see how backing up, how much that is. So that's currently the experiment I'm in. I put myself in it. I experiment with it. I want firsthand information so I can say, trust me, this will get you there. I've seen it with all my clients. I've seen it with myself, so I'm very confident in my work because I've been doing it for so long, and I've got the results from, I don't know how many people. Lots of clients.
Powerful. That is so powerful, Karen. Thank you so much for opening our eyes about the space around us. We all have a different perspective right now, and I cannot wait to go check out the webinar. And I'll post all the links for the certification course, for the book, and for your website in the show notes below. Wishing you a lovely rest of your day.